Hi, I'm Marilyn, and welcome back to my Bookish groove. I have been trying to figure out what to do on this channel, and I have some ideas, and I've said that, but I have some ideas, and I expect 2026 to be a much better year for this. We're going to talk about my December TBR. I hope you enjoy, and if you're just watching this in the background, then hell yeah. Happy to be accompanying you on your journeys today. So let's go ahead and start with what my December TBR actually is, specifically starting with the book that I'm almost done with, which is Queen of Shadows. I embarked on the Throne of Glass journey last month, and I have been flying through them, and then I slowed down a bit when I got to Queen of Shadows, but fret not, we have picked back up. I am about 64% of the way through with it, and I am aiming to finish this by tomorrow. I'm very, very invested. This book has gone from zero to hero right now. This has been the one that I've struggled with, I think, the most so far in the series, and it's just because I'm sad. I'm just sad. Personally, I'm just depressed about things. I just want things to be happy, and I've been told that they're not gonna be. Really excited about that, but yeah, so Queen of Shadows is for sure on there. Then I have The Gingerbread Bakery. Now, I really, really do enjoy this series, to be honest. I have no qualms with it at all. I know that there's been people that I don't know, just don't like it, but I personally, I'm not the book police, and I think they're really sweet. I think this series has really cute holiday romances. I like the town. I like the vibes of it all, honestly. Now, I've only read Pumpkin Spice and Cinnamon Bun Bookstore because I didn't really care about the side characters in the other two books. And I have been waiting since book one for Annie and Mac's story. I don't know why. I was just like, that's gotta be good. So I've started this one. I'm barely even 5-6% into it, but I am really enjoying it. So I do want to kind of read this sooner rather than later. This is one of those books that you just finish really quickly, just because I really want to get into that December holiday vibe, mood, etc. So really, really excited for this. And then for the last book that I have started, it's complicated. It's Accomplice to the Villain, and I love this series. I love this author. I love the premise and the plot and just what it's about. I think it's really cute. I am not a difficult person to please when it comes to books. If you make me giggle, laugh, kick my feet, cry, feel happy, if I feel things when I'm reading and it's not visceral hatred and anger, then I think you've done a good job, and I am more than likely going to enjoy your book. Obviously, I have my preferences, which is why I currently have 20 books that I've unhauled. However, this is a series that I really did enjoy, and I think the problem I'm having with getting into this one, because I did start it 4 months ago, or whenever this came out. I started it as soon as it came out, and I just haven't been able to get past that very beginning part, and I think part of it is just because she has this awesome way of making such a good climb in the books. Wow, we've really gotten somewhere, and the rising action's just ramping up and ramping up and ramping up, and then you get to this awesome cliffhanger. I mean, her cliffhangers are so good because they don't leave you with this gaping hole in your heart of oh my god. They leave you kind of feeling empowered and oh yes, they're good cliffhangers. Then you pick up the next book, and you kind of want to stay here. You want it to keep going, even if it plateaus a little bit, but you want it to keep going. And I feel with her, it just dips back down to we're back to the beginning, and let's rise back up. And I'm okay. For book 3 in a series, I'd love to be at that plateau up there where things are just still going, but it's fine because I know it's going to be good. I'm really excited to continue the series, so I just need to buckle down and actually read this book. Then obviously I would really, really like to get to the tandem read this month. I'll finish Queen of Shadows tomorrow, let's say, and then I am thinking about reading Gingerbread Bakery. I want to try and get a little bit further in Accomplice to the Villain, and then I want to start the tandem read. So I hope by the end of December that I'll get about 50% of the way through the tandem read. I have this book that I'm foaming at the mouth to read, and it is A Pack for Winter by Eliana Lee. Now, I love Eliana Lee and Amelia Emerson. I love their books. I've read pretty much everything they've written, and I've been putting this book off because I know myself. Now, welcome to my bookish groove. One thing to note about me is that I'm a why choose girly. I'm why choose through and through. I love it. I crave it often. If there's a trope that you are thinking of, I've probably read a why choose book with said trope. and I've probably eaten it up and loved it. Maybe we can do a deep dive, deep study into what that is and, what that means for us. However, a problem that I tend to fall into when I read is that I'll get bored of something I'm reading, or I'll get a little bit overwhelmed by my TBR, or I'll just like really be craving this one specific thing that only a why choose can deliver. And then I'll stop what I'm doing with my TBR and I'll get my Kindle and I'll find a Kindle Unlimited why choose book that's easy. And then before I know it, it's the end of the month and I've read 7 why chooses and I've not touched my TBR. So this month I've said, no, we're not going to do that. You have far too many books to read to just keep getting these Kindle Unlimited books that you cannot continue pushing everything off for. And so that being said, I knew at some point this month, and it's already happening, that I was going to crave a why choose, and I was going to cave like a spineless worm to the Kindle Unlimited curse of why choose books. So I said, this shall be my treat. When I inevitably relapse, this shall be my drug of choice right here. That way I can read a book that's on my TBR that I do have physically, but that scratches that itch that is prickling up my spine. So I'm very excited to read this, but this is going to be a book that's like, I have to stop myself from reading it until I have no other choice. Really excited though. We're getting into the good shit now because I'm really, really excited to read Frankenstein, the 1818 text, might I add. So just a quick side tangent, which is going to be a very, very popular and prominent thing on this channel. Quick side tangent about Mary Shelley, because let's get into it. I'm obsessed with her. But she wrote this when she was 18 years old, right? Super cool. I'm not going to go into the whole history of her, but I'm going to go into this one specific thing because it does relate to something else I'm going to talk about in a second. If you want to know more about Mary Shelley, I will make a video about her. I promise I will. I do that. I will love to do that. But Mary Shelley wrote this when she was 18 years old. She was stuck in this like gothic mansion with her husband, their mutual friend, and his personal physician. And then the mutual friend, Lord Byron, he challenges them to a writing competition, and him and Mary Shelley's husband bow out pretty early on. And that night, Mary Shelley writes what will later become Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. Now, the 1818 text is the closest to what she wrote that night that exists, right? Because after that night, her husband encouraged her to edit it and fix it up a little bit, and he helped her because he was a writer, and eventually they published it and so on and so forth. And then 1831, she's lived a whole life at this point, and by that I mean she's lost her husband, she's lost her kids, and she took this text and she kind of reimagined it. She did not change like major aspects of it, but she did kind of rewrite it through a different lens, one that more mirrors her kind of grief and loss than maybe the 1818 has. Now, that is something that I would like to discover for myself. I would like to read the 1818, and then I do have the 1831 as well, and eventually I would like to read that one, do my own comparison, and have my own kind of idea of what that is, because I've heard a lot of people talk about that. However, I don't know that to be true. That's just the analysis that people have done. And so the 1831 is a more popularized version. It's the one that is most usually referred to in conversations about Frankenstein. The 1818 text is it's the most organic to what she really was feeling at 18 years old and what she imagined it to be at that time in her life. And so for me personally, that's the version I want to read. I want to read the first iteration, what was on your mind at 18 years old, And I felt that way because I thought, if an 18-year-old girl in the 1800s was capable of creating something that changed the world truly and changed the landscape of literature. She created the science fiction genre that night, with Frankenstein. At 18 years old, like, God, with all the restrictions that were placed on women at the time, like, what can't you do, And so I don't know. I wanted to understand her. I wanted to understand her mind, and that just made me really excited to read this. Not to mention, Guillermo del Toro just recently did his adaptation of Frankenstein, and if I'm remembering correctly, I think he did it based on the 1818 text, whereas usually adaptations of Frankenstein have come very loosely from the 1831. So correct me if I'm wrong, but that is what I've heard, and I don't know. It just made me want to read this even more. And Guillermo del Toro is such a huge Frankenstein fan, and this is on his like required reading. So I'm just like, of course I'm going to read that. But sorry to go on such a huge tangent. However, Mary Shelley is not only the mother and founder of the science fiction and the dystopian genre based on this other book that she wrote several years later, but she's also the daughter of the mother and founder of modern feminism, Mary Wollstonecraft. Okay, and she wrote a book called A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, which was the first time that somebody had demanded and created a doctrine of women's equality and women's rights, like a call for it. She, in the way that she did it, created what we have today that we know as modern feminism. She was leagues ahead of her time. And what's really tragic, God, this is basically becoming a Mary Shelley, Mary Wollstonecraft video, but there's just so much more to this. But Mary Shelley actually never met her mother. Her mother died when Mary was very young, or I think during childbirth, but that did not keep Mary Shelley from being raised by her mom, because she read this and studied it, and this became her benchmark and her Bible essentially for life. And that's why Mary Shelley wasn't afraid of being who she was. She was weird, she was outspoken, she was a thorn in the side of a polite society. She didn't do things the way that they wanted her to do them, but actually she still fit the ideal of what a woman was supposed to want and be at that time. She just did it in her own way, which boggled the minds of those men. They had no idea what to make of her. And when she wrote Frankenstein, she defied all the fucking odds, and she wrote this book that was just like unsettling for all of these men. I mean, they just didn't know what to make of her. And so it's so cool that, like, even though she never met her mom still raised her, and the two of them changed the world. Two women, mother and daughter, literally changed the fabric of the world as we know it. It's one of my favorite pieces of history I've ever learned about. So yes, if you want a deep dive, baby, I have got you. I will do that. Y'all just let me know. I have the Vindication of the Rights of Women. I do feel like this is a coffee shop book. Like, if you're doing some work or whatever, you stick this in your bag, and when you have a second to read, you pick it up and you read it. And then lastly, lowest priority is Paradise Lost by John Milton. Now, I've heard a lot of people say that if you're going to read Frankenstein, you should read Paradise Lost as an accompaniment. I understand, because Paradise Lost, I think, is a retelling of the story of heaven and hell, Lucifer and God, and like all of this stuff. And it is a classic. It is told in like stanzas, I think is what it is. And obviously Frankenstein deals with man playing God and defying the laws of nature and all of this stuff. And so I guess there's quite a bit of overlap between Frankenstein and Paradise Lost. Or maybe not overlap, but it's like themes and things like that. So I thought, hey, if I'm going to read Frankenstein, might as well take that as an opportunity to entice myself into reading this. So all of that being said, that is my TBR for the month of December. And I am also reading Phantasma. A friend of mine, we made a deal. If she finished a show that I really wanted her to watch, then I would read Phantasma, which is one of her, I think, her favorite books, or one of her favorite books of this year at least. So I am reading Phantasma as well. I don't have a physical copy of it. I'm just reading it on my Kindle. So that is part of my TBR. So that was my December TBR, and hopefully I will have a video that will come up at the end of December or start of January with kind of an update on what I did and what I thought of these books. Please stick around. I am telling you, my ideas for 2026 are pretty good. I'm really excited to put some work into this and make this platform something that I'm really, really, really proud of, and hopefully turn this into something that I can do full time eventually. I have a lot of passion for this world, and I hope that will be conveyed through the videos that I make in 2026, but I'm still learning and I am starting from the ground up. So I'm very excited. I've got a lot of energy towards this now. So let's see how this goes. But yeah, have a great day and stay groovy. Bye.